My secret to a great apple pie is finding the reddest one in the bunch.
I'll have to remember that tip.
Rain hammered the streets of Chicago like the sky was trying to wash the whole city clean. Daniel Hayes didn't usually take the long way home from the hospital, but that night something pulled him down Lakeview Avenue. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe instinct, or maybe it was the sight of a young woman standing alone under a flickering streetlight, clutching a broken suitcase like she was holding her entire world together with her fingertips. Her name, he later learned, was Lily Carter, 24, scared, shivering, and trying really hard to pretend she wasn't any of those things. Daniel, at 41, had seen enough pain in the emergency room to recognize the look she was hiding behind brave eyes. When he rolled down his window and asked if she was all right, she hesitated, not out of fear, but pride. Pride was her last shield, and even that looked like it was slipping. "I'm fine," she said, even though her lips were trembling. "I just need a place for tonight. A safe place." Safe. That word hit him harder than it should have. He wasn't the type to pick up strangers. He wasn't the type to get involved. His life had been quiet for years, routine, predictable. But something in her voice cracked open a door inside him he didn't even know was still there. "Get in," he said softly. "I'll help you." Lily studied him for a long moment. Not his clothes, not his car, but his eyes, as if she was searching for danger or kindness, or maybe a reason to keep breathing. Finally, she nodded. The ride was silent at first, except for the sound of rain on the windshield. She held that broken suitcase on her lap like it was a lifeline. Daniel didn't push, didn't ask questions. He could feel her trust was something fragile, something earned slowly. When he finally spoke, his voice was careful. "You said you needed a place for one night. I live close by. It's safe there." She turned her head, and in the passing glow of streetlights, he saw the bruise near her temple, poorly hidden with makeup. That was the moment everything changed. Not because she looked hurt, but because she looked like she was ashamed of the hurt. He parked outside his apartment building, offering her his umbrella as they stepped out. She tried to refuse again, polite to the point of heartbreak, but he insisted. Inside, she kept whispering, "I won't stay long. Just tonight. Tomorrow I'll be gone. I don't want to trouble you." But Daniel didn't feel troubled. He felt protective, in a way that surprised him. He showed her the guest room, fresh towels, a warm blanket. She touched the edge of the bed like she hadn't felt softness in a long time. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Really, thank you." He nodded and stepped back, giving her space. At the door, she called out his name for the first time. "Daniel." He turned. "If I fall asleep," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "please don't wake me. I haven't slept safely in months." Those words stayed with him long after he closed the door. And sometime in the middle of the night, when he heard her crying softly into the pillow, he understood something he couldn't explain, something he wasn't looking for, something he didn't expect. She needed help for one night. But he knew, with a certainty that unsettled him, that he wasn't leaving her story after tonight. Not when she had just walked into his life like a storm meant to rewrite everything. The sun crept through the blinds the next morning, soft and golden, warming the quiet apartment. Daniel didn't usually notice mornings. Most days he rushed through them, half asleep, thinking only of the hospital. But today he found himself standing in the kitchen, waiting for a sound from the guest room. A door creaking, footsteps, anything. When Lily finally emerged, she moved slowly, like someone still listening for danger. Her hair was tied back loosely, her eyes swollen from sleep and tears, but there was something different in her face, a softness, a shift, a trace of peace. "You made coffee?" she asked, surprised. Daniel nodded and pulled a mug from the counter. "Figured you might need it." She accepted it with both hands, as if warmth felt unfamiliar. She looked around his kitchen with quiet curiosity, taking in the framed photos, the plants, the clean order. It was a place built by someone who lived alone, someone who didn't expect company, someone who didn't expect a stranger to suddenly matter. "You don't have to stay longer," he said gently. "But you also don't have to rush out." Lily bit her lip. "I don't want to cause problems for you." You're not. She hesitated, then sat across from him. For a moment, she looked like she was fighting an internal war, one part wanting to stay silent, another desperate to speak. My ex found out where I lived, she finally whispered. Last night, he showed up. I didn't know where else to go. Daniel felt his chest tighten, not with anger, though that simmered beneath the surface, but with something protective, something steady. He didn't ask for details. He didn't need them. He could see enough in the way she wrapped her arms around herself. You're safe here, he said simply. Lily nodded. I know. That's the scary part. I haven't felt safe in so long. It almost doesn't feel real. She tried to smile, but it wavered. Daniel reached across the table, resting his hand on top of hers. She didn't pull away. She didn't flinch. Instead, her fingers curled around his, small and fragile in his larger palm. They sat like that longer than either expected. Later that day, Daniel drove her to pick up some essentials. She walked beside him through the store, quiet at first, then lighter, asking small questions, letting out small laughs. He found himself glancing at her more than he should, memorizing the way she tucked hair behind her ear, the careful steps she took, the hope returning to her eyes piece by piece. Back at the apartment, she helped him cook dinner, even though she admitted she didn't know much about cooking. He guided her hands, showed her how to chop vegetables, teased her gently when she sliced a carrot too thick. She laughed, a soft, genuine sound that filled his home in a way nothing else had. When the evening settled in, she stood by the window, watching the city lights shimmer. Daniel approached quietly. I know you said just one night, he said, but you can stay until you figure things out. Lily didn't look at him right away. She stared at the glowing skyline, her voice barely above a whisper. If I accept that, even for a little while, does it change things? His breath caught. It might. She finally turned, and the vulnerability in her eyes was almost too honest. Then I think I'm more scared of leaving than staying, she said softly. Daniel didn't move closer. He didn't touch her, but something electric passed between them, something unspoken yet undeniable. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about what was safe or predictable. He was thinking about her, the woman who stumbled into his life in the rain and was slowly rewiring his entire world. And he had no idea that this was only the beginning of a bond that would test them, break them, and change them forever. The first real threat arrived 3 days later. Daniel had just come off a long shift, exhausted but eager to get home. Lily had spent the day organizing the guest room, cooking simple meals, and leaving small thank you notes around the apartment, as if trying to repay kindness with tiny gestures of warmth. He didn't tell her she didn't know him anything. He knew she needed to feel useful, grounded, safe. But when he reached his building's foyer, he saw a man pacing near the mailboxes. Tall, rough, tense, a face red with anger and sleeplessness. Daniel noticed the restless shifting, the clenched jaw. Instinct, the same instinct that guided him through emergency rooms, told him exactly who this was. The man turned sharply. You Daniel Hayes? Daniel's chest tightened. Who's asking? I'm looking for Lily. She won't answer my calls. His voice was low, dangerous. She's my girlfriend. Daniel didn't respond at first. Something cold swept through him, not fear for himself, but fear of what this man could do if he found her. She's not here, Daniel said calmly. And she doesn't want to see you. The man stepped closer. Too close. You think you can hide her? You don't know anything about us. Daniel met his stare steadily. I know she's afraid. That struck a nerve. The man's fist tightened, shoulders rigid. But after a long, burning silence, he turned and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Daniel stood still for a moment, grounding himself, letting the tension drain from his hands. He knew this wasn't over. He knew danger had found its way to their doorstep.
What are you doing here? Stay
And
away
he
from
knew
her.
Lily had every right to walk away now.
I suggest you
To
lower your
choose
voice.
safety elsewhere,
You're disturbing the
somewhere
neighbors.
far from him. But a deeper part of him hoped she wouldn't. When he entered the apartment, Lily was sitting on the couch with a blanket draped over her shoulders. Her face lit up when she saw him, until she noticed the unease in his eyes. What happened? She asked. He debated telling her. He didn't want to frighten her, but she'd had enough lies in her life. He came looking for you, Daniel said gently. He's gone now. Fear slid over her expression like a shadow. She wrapped her arms around herself. He won't stop. He never stops. Daniel knelt in front of her, meeting her eyes. You're not alone this time. Her breath hitched. Why are you doing this for me? You don't even know me. I'm doing it because you needed help. And because, his voice softened. Some people walk into our lives, and we just know they're not meant to walk out. Tears pooled in her eyes, quiet, grateful tears she tried to blink away. She lowered her forehead to his, and for the first time, the distance between them disappeared. Later that night, while the city moved quietly below, Lily stood on the balcony looking up at the stars. Daniel joined her, hands resting on the cool railing. She leaned slightly toward him, as if her body trusted him before her words did. Daniel, she whispered. Yes. What if I don't want this to be temporary anymore? He turned to her, gently lifting her chin. Her eyes were soft, hopeful, trembling with a mixture of fear and desire. You can stay as long as you want, he said. A night, a month, a lifetime. Her breath caught. A lifetime. If that's where this leads, he answered. Lily touched his hand, her thumb brushing over his skin with a tenderness that felt like a promise. No one has ever looked at me like I'm worth staying for. You're worth more than you know, Daniel whispered. And under the quiet glow of the city lights, with the storm of her past finally losing its power, Lily stepped into his arms. It wasn't a kiss of rescue or desperation. It was slow, fragile, warm, a beginning shaped by everything they had survived and everything they were ready to build. She came to him needing help for one night,